What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Emphasis on Sports. I am your host, Damon Anthony, and as usual, we're just kicking it about sports, talking about what's going on, right? We all know it's football season. We ready to rock. You see it, and obviously you can tell who I root for, right? This is just, I'm gonna be real with you. I do have a team. I'm with them all the way, but I can talk about them very unbiased, right? We're going to get to them a little later because there's been a little fuckery going on, just a little bit, right? All right, but biggest things going on right now, college football had a really good day yesterday. Some really cool games. South Carolina LSU, that game went down to the end. That was real sweet, real good back and forth game. South Carolina jumped out to a pretty big lead, couldn't hold it down all the way. LSU ended up marching back. Then it just became a back and forth battle. And as a football fan, I just love to see those back and forth battles. LSU or South Carolina missed a field goal at the very end of the game, could have tied it up, took them to overtime, but LSU eked that one out. Other places in college football, Georgia barely squeaked by Kentucky. Now, listen, I used to live in Lexington. Kentucky's basketball. It's not football. They might have a good player every now and then. They might have a decent season every now and then. But 13-12, Georgia. Georgia. I mean, one thing I am liking to see is a little bit of parity in college. It might make this 12-team playoff real cool, but I would have expected Georgia to put a little bit of a thumping on Kentucky, just to be completely honest. Florida State, Florida, you're on the clock. Coach Carousel might have to start moving. We all know that coaches like Mike Norvell, they have a huge buyout if they do get fired. Boosters will pay it because Florida State not looking good at all. The landscape is real interesting around college when it comes to that. We all know they will get rid of you. They'll get right rid of you to move on in hopes of, bringing in more money via bowl games, via championships, via now this playoff. So, I mean, our college coaches got to watch out. Michigan did their thing. Texas did their thing. There was a lot of, what you think would happen yesterday, right? Not too many major things shook up. Next weekend's going to be a real good one. Game I'm personally going to have my eye on is USC Michigan. Big USC fan, but now USC's, came over to the Big Ten, so we're going to see these matchups a lot more often. Definitely worth watching. Definitely going to have a lot of eyes on it. These are big college, quote unquote, blue bloods playing against each other, which is something that's not normal. So it's just going to be real good to see those epic fan bases kind of clash, right? All right, so moving on to NFL. Hey, look, I've said a long time ago, NFL, that's my major thing. Talk more about the NFL than anything that you'll see some bits and pieces, but I'm with the National Football League. It's Sunday. I'm up early. I'm going to be jamming games all day. You better believe it, right? So Thursday night, Buffalo Bills put a little something on the Miami Dolphins, 31-10. Let's talk about the game itself real quick, because I did have a chance to sit and watch that entire game. The Bills came out and they looked exactly like a lot of pundits thought they would. A lot of people were expecting the Bills to come out and be just a behemoth, not miss a beat after losing most of their receiver room. The first game against the Cardinals, it took them a little bit to build up to it. It didn't take them a little bit to build up to this one. They came out ready to play from the door. Josh Allen looked perfectly fine. It looked really good to see James actually cook. James Cook, get it? But James Cook came out with 3 touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, Miami just didn't look good at all. Other than A-Chain, they just didn't look cohesive. Really in any aspect of the game. Then as the game waned on and Miami was trying to make their furious comeback, we all saw Tua get hurt again. Another concussion. And this was a very normal play. This wasn't anything crazy. He got into Damar Hamlin, I think, a little bit wrong. probably could have just went straight down, maybe a yard earlier, still picked up that first down. But he did go out there and suffer a concussion. Did not look good on TV. Everyone had immediate thoughts. I definitely had an immediate thought. You don't want to see anyone get hurt, especially with a concussion, especially when you've seen this multiple times. And I'll probably echo the sentiments of a lot of people. Hey, look, Tua, reflect on life. Do what's best for you. Do what's best for your family. You do not have to play football anymore. Some things are bigger than the game. Some things are bigger than the money. Don't like to see people get hurt at all. Want people to live happy, fruitful lives. I preach positivity. That's what I like. I like people to be happy, like people to live. You're a young guy, man. You'll probably never hear me say this coming across your airwaves, but you're a young guy. Think about your life. Think about your family. All right. So now today, Sunday, full slate, NFL, right? Of course, we'll get this out of the way. San Francisco is at Minnesota this week. Well, I'm going to break down every game. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. San Francisco should go in there and win. The biggest hurdle that San Francisco has with Minnesota is it has been 32 years since San Francisco has beat Minnesota in Minnesota. That's tough. That's a lot of layers. 32 years ago, that's Steve Young, Jerry Rice. And they played together for some years after that. Then Jeff Garcia, T.O. Remember, there were those Kaepernick years. Balling. It's amazing. It's amazing that the 49ers hasn't beat them there. So what that tells me is, regardless, it's going to be a pretty good game. It's kind of like a division rivalry, if you will. Minnesota came out last week and looked good. They looked damn good. Now, granted, they were playing very poor New York Giant team, but this was going to be tough. I do have San Francisco winning, pulling this one out, snapping that long streak, but it's going to be tough. I'm not going to say that I'm expecting the Niners to go in there and blow the doors off them whatsoever. Other games around the league, Saints visit the Cowboys. I'm looking forward to this one too. Last week, the Saints came out and looked dynamic, but once again, they were playing Carolina, not a very good team. Same token, Dallas came out and they looked absolutely fantastic. They're playing against an injury-ridden and a lot of things going on in Cleveland with the Cleveland Browns team just in general. But Dallas looked like studs last week. So this is going to be a good one, a litmus test for both of them. Let's see where they're at. Who do I think is going to win? It's a home game for the Cowboys, their home opener. I think they're going to win a close one. But I think it's going to be a really good game. Really good game. I'd probably say maybe a field goal game there. Another big game. Tampa Bay at Detroit. If you would have told me 5 years ago that Tampa Bay and Detroit would feature, that this game would feature two division winners, I'd laugh at you. Come on now. Detroit? Tampa? These aren't teams that I grew up, saying they're good. They had moments here and there. Really, Tampa had moments. But this is going to be a great game. We all know Detroit's a really good team. I picked them to win their division. I think that they're going to push the line for NFC Championship berth, possible Super Bowl berth. Tampa's one of those teams that they're right there too. Remember, after Tom left, that the rest of the team was intact. So then enter Baker Mayfield with no pressure, no weirdness, none of that stuff that plagued him in other areas. And dudes came out and looked great. Last week, he looked good. Really can't say much there. Now, being that it's a home opener, I do expect Detroit to win this game. Actually, this isn't their home opener. They played LA at home last week. But I do expect Detroit to win this game. This is going to be a real good one. I think it's going to be a close one, too. I think this is when we see that kicker that Detroit picked up. This is when we see a nice 54, 55-yarder to win the game, whether at the end of regulation or overtime. So I'm going to take Detroit here. And we're going to have Indy and Green Bay. Now, this game would have looked a lot cooler, had Jordan Love not went down with his injury. I'm going to take the Colts in this one. I think the Colts are a solid team. Anthony Richardson is still figuring it out. We've seen the athleticism, we've seen the arm. We know the kid can play. He's definitely a huge up and comer. But this is still, while this is technically his second year, this is, I want to say, maybe his sixth or seventh game starting so far in his career. So he still has some miles to grow. I want to see what happens with Malik Willis on the other side of the ball with the Packers. Now he's had a week to prepare for this game, other than just get in there for 5 seconds, try to heave a ball down the field. So this is going to be I think, pretty solid game. But I like Indy by at least a touchdown. There's nothing that shows me otherwise there. Jets at Tennessee. Now, both of these teams coming off losses. Tennessee definitely kind of an embarrassing loss. They were putting it to the Bears. Bears came back, won the game. Will Levis with a really, really crazy looking touchdown pass to the Bears on his knees, hands on his head, kind of hilarious. But they lost that game. That was a real, real tough game to lose. Meanwhile, the Jets, they lost to the Niners. Not a tough one to lose. That's kind of a building block game, I would think. That's one of those games where you really can look and see, what do we need to do? What do we need to fix? Because you know that San Francisco has more of a complete team than most any other team in the league. I'm going to take the Jets in this one by at least a 10-piece. I think Rodgers is going to come out and he's going to hit Garrett Wilson. Brees Hall is going to have a good game. They're going to dot some I's, cross some T's. I like the Jets by at least 10 on this one. Seattle at New England. This is kind of one of those no one cares games. It really is. Neither one of these teams are going to be vying for anything at the end of the season. Right now, for both of these teams, they're coming in 1-1. Their fan bases are happy. The future looks bright in some areas. No one really cares about this one. I'm going to take Seattle on the road just because I really don't think New England is that good. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. But I like Seattle in this game just to win, just straight up, kind of more a little gritty, smash mouthy. But I'm going to take Seattle by field goal. Field goal. I think it's going to be a real low scoring game. Washington at the Giants, or the Giants at Washington. Taking Washington all day. Taking Washington by 10. The Giants suck. They stink. There's no two ways about it. You got Malik Neighbors. All right, cool. What else you got? Quarterback doesn't look good. Defense doesn't look good. Running back, shaky. Everything but Malik Neighbors for the most part. Yeah, definitely taking Washington there. I think the young kid, Jaden, think he's going to come out. Think he's going to have a pretty good game. Looking for Scary Terry to have a really good one. Washington looks like one of those teams that could get better and progress by the end of the year. It's unfortunate for them that they do have Dallas, they do have Philly in their division, because they could end up being a pretty solid team, but I don't think that they can sneak past them. This week, though, I think they'll knock the Giants out. I'm going to take Washington by at least a touchdown. Maybe 2, but by at least a touch. All right, let's go. Chargers at the Panthers. This is another no one cares game. No one cares for a couple reasons. Panthers, they're horrible. They just are. They're awful. And I don't see them getting any better this year. The Chargers, on the other hand, Chargers are going to be okay. Harbaugh's a good coach. I'm not saying that they're not going to be this great team or anything yet. Give it another year or so. But they're definitely better than the Panthers. Now, the reason no one cares on the Charger side, once they moved out of San Diego, their fans are kind of in a weird place. No one really cares for the Chargers. But I will take the Chargers to win this game by at least a 10-piece. Definitely a 10-piece. I really don't think the Panthers score but so much. Harbaugh does like to put an emphasis on defense. But Chargers there. No one really cares about that game. Cleveland, Jacksonville. This is another one of those kind of no one cares outside of their respective areas. Both of these teams are limping in. 0-1. Jacksonville gave up a lead to Miami last week, lost their game. Cleveland just looks discombobulated all the way around. They just do. A lot of injuries. Quarterback doesn't look sharp at all, which affects all the offense, just in general. The offensive line, there's some injuries. Cleveland, the Browns, they don't look like the team that I was expecting. If you look kind of back in some of my old shows, I actually thought Cleveland was going to win this division. They still might. This is only week one. Don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. Only one team in that division came out with a win last week, which is good for Cleveland. But if I sit back and look at that team, they just don't really look that good. Jacksonville, I think they're a team that's always going to be kind of average at best. Hopefully they can prove me wrong. But to lose the way they did in Miami last week, Trevor Lawrence, we've been expecting you to be a lot better since you came in the league. As far as consistently, we see the sparks. We know that it's there. But every week, all the time. If I got to pick this one, I'm going to take the home team by field goal. Take Jacksonville. There's nothing about either one of these teams that stand out to me at this current moment. But I got to pick a winner, right? All right, then we're going to have the Raiders at the Ravens. Now, Raiders at Ravens, Ravens are going to win that one by at least 10. I know the Raiders, they're going to come out, they're going to play tough, but they're just not that good of a team. I actually am a fan of Gardner Minshew. He just seems like a regular-ass dude, but that team's just not that good. Meanwhile, Baltimore's coming in, both of them limping in off a loss, but Baltimore lost that game against Kansas City. They had a little more time to rest. That's a huge one after week one. They're going to come out, and I think they're going to put it to the Raiders right out the gate. Might see King Henry get 2. Might see Lamar get 1. Baltimore's going to put some points on the board. I got them by at least 10. That rounds out the 1 o'clock games. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. We're going to have the Rams at the Cardinals. Now, this one's kind of interesting. The Cardinals, to me, are one of those teams that they could, at any time, beat anybody because of Kyler Murray, but they also could lose to anybody at any time because of Kyler Murray. You get what I'm saying? No disrespect to Kyler Murray, no tearing him down or anything, but I don't see the consistency. I see just a lot of running around. I'm not trying to sling it out there. Stop, set your feet. Let's go. Let's move down the field. Had a weird comment this week about Marvin Harrison. It's not his job to force him the ball. Bro, you're the quarterback. Marvin don't throw it to himself. None of your receivers throw it to himself. It's kind of your job to get these guys the ball. Pay attention when guys are open. In the game last week, we had Harrison wide open for a touchdown. Missed it. That's kind of on you. On the Rams side of the ball, Rams are going in without Puka Nacua. Nacua's out for a couple weeks. We know that. They still got Kupp. They still got Kyren Williams. They still got Matt Stafford. I'm expecting the Rams to win this one, probably by less than 7, more than 3, somewhere in that range, 5-6 points. But I'm going to take the Rams here. I think the Rams are just a better team all the way around than the Cardinals at this point. Still early with them, but at this point. Pittsburgh, Denver. I mean, to be honest with you, this is kind of a no one cares game. There's a lot of Steelers fans and a lot of Broncos fans, but neither one of these teams I don't think anyone expects to be like a hell of a team. Pittsburgh is walking in off of victory. They were the only team in the AFC North to win a game. Denver, 0-1. Still got Bo Nix at quarterback, rookie. Kid has to learn, be put in there against the fire. He's going to have to meet TJ Watt this week. That's going to be a real tough one. Definitely a tough one there. Now, at the same time, let's see what that offense of the Steelers does. Justin Fields making his second start. We know George Pickens is going to be locked up on the outside. So what is Fields going to be able to do? How is he going to be able to move that ball up and down the field? Are we going to see a big game from Najee? Maybe. But I do like Pittsburgh to win by at least a touchdown against Denver. Definitely. Also, we have we have Cincinnati at Kansas City. This one is a huge game for a lot of reasons. None of them on the Kansas City side. Kansas City could lose this game by 100 points. They're still Kansas City. But on the Cincinnati side, there's been a lot of talk this week of Joe Burrow not being really that good. If he doesn't have all of this complement of receivers and backs and all of that. One of the things that makes a great quarterback great is making all of your teammates better, right? It's a knock on Brock Purdy. He walked into a situation where everything around him was gold, so he's able to be great. Kind of been the same thing for Joe Burrow. We know Jamar Chase is still unhappy with his contract situation, and they're not going to talk about it for the rest of the year, so he's just going to go out there and play. But T. Higgins is hurt. Joe Mixon is gone. The Bengals didn't look good at all last week. And I think we were reminded last year Joe Burrow didn't necessarily look great before he got hurt. So this is a game where I think football fans, non-Cincinnati Bengal fans, just unbiased football fans, are really going to see, is Joe Burrow actually as good as we think he is or we thought he is or any of that, right? Is he actually that good? When you go back and look at it, that year at LSU, he had ridiculous receivers, ridiculous core. He comes to the league, ridiculous core. Guys are getting hurt. Guys are moving to free agency. Joe doesn't look the same. I don't want to blame things on his injury. I'm not going to play that, oh, he couldn't pick up the water. Who cares about that? I'm not going to blame things on his injury. If he says he can play, I'm just going to hold him to what he says. Any player out there that says that they're healthy and they get out there to go, don't come back later and say you were injured. Don't make those excuses. If you're out, you're out. But once you line them up and once you go, I can do nothing but expect the best. Hope for the best at the very least. But that being said, I'm still taking Kansas City to win this game. I'm taking Kansas City to win this game by a field goal. Real close game. I think Joe Burrow is going to come out and he's going to be decent. I don't think he's going to be great. But Kansas City has retooled. They definitely have retooled. They're at home. This is going to be a huge one for them. I got Kansas City in this one, folks. Night game tonight. Bears at Texans. Caleb Williams' second game. Folks, they about to get smoked. I'm just saying. Houston's a really good team. They showed that last week. They went into Indianapolis, into a division rival, played a really good game, won a really good game. There was a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement. We saw that long-ass Anthony Richardson touchdown. There are things that could set a lot of teams back that happened in that game. Houston's showing, at least through week one, that they're who they were last year. With that being said, the Bears are still learning. We know Rome and Keenan, they're not walking into this game healthy. Don't know which one of them are going to sit, start, or what, but your receiving core isn't healthy. DeAndre Swift, he's still all right. But Caleb last week wasn't a good one. It just wasn't a good one. If it wasn't for the defensive special teams, the Bears would have lost that game. That's why it was such a bad one for Tennessee to lose. We're not going to sit here and say that Caleb came out and had this all-star, all-pro game for his first game, because he didn't. That being said, got to take Texans. Have to take Texans. And take Texans by at least a touchdown, maybe more. This one's going to be one of those games, I think, for Caleb Williams when he's going to self-reflect a little bit. I really do. But I think it's going to be good for him in his evolution as a quarterback in his second game. I think this is going to be one of those. Rounding out the football weekend, we're going to have on Monday night, Falcons at the Eagles. This is going to be an interesting one too. I'm going to take the Eagles to win this game. This is actually their home opener. Last week they were in Brazil. I'm going to take the Eagles to win this one. Let's go Eagles by a touchdown. Not that I don't feel that Atlanta's a good team. I just think the Eagles are better. I think that Atlanta's still learning how to play together. Remember, this is Kirk's first year there. So every game is still kind of a first for him. This is going to be his first road game with the Falcons. This is his first time going through all of the things with that team. And for all of the guys to go through it with him. That being said, I got Philly knocking them out, winning this game. So now, after we went through that week, we can talk about a little bit of the fuckery, right? So as a 49er fan, it didn't really hurt me or anything, right? But I know it hurt a lot of fantasy football fans. With Christian McCaffrey, he's now on IR. I'm going into the season, a couple episodes back. One of the things I talked about was it was good to have all the Niners back and healthy and ready, and I named them all off. Well, CMC wasn't healthy. Not at all. And honestly, I think the 49ers knew that. I think Shanny knew that. They didn't disclose that. So in the fantasy world, a lot of people drafted Christian McCaffrey first. I did not last year. Last year, my partner and I, we did, and did very well. But this year, we definitely didn't. And in other leagues, I did not. Did draft Jordan Mason in a couple leagues because as a Niner fan, if you know, you know, right? If you know, you know. But it's caused a lot of ruffles and a lot of feathers because it's really messed up a lot of people's fantasy stuff, and I laugh at that. It's hilarious. And it's funny to me, probably not for the reason everyone thinks, right? It's funny to me because people think that these teams care about our fantasy football. They don't, y'all. They don't. I'm telling you, we play fantasy football because we want to. These teams don't care about that. These teams, if they withhold information, they're doing it to have a competitive advantage against other teams. Not about fantasy. Fantasy is going to be there whether you like it or not. I hate friends of mine. I don't hate my friends, but I hate on my friends sometimes that bitch and moan about certain players not having a great game because of whatever. Homie, they're not here to play for fantasy. I get it, guys like Maurice Jones-Drew and all that, that played and would speak on it during their playing career. Like, I get it, and that's kind of cool. But say take the tight end position, right? So George Kittle, 49er, widely considered top 3 tight end in the game, right? We all know that you throw him the ball, he'll truck people, he'll get up the field and do all of that. And as a Niner fan, sometimes you're screaming at TV, throw it to George, throw it to George. But guess what? That's not the only thing that's his job. Blocking. That's not a fantasy stat. But that's a get your check stat. That keeps you employed. It's not all about the stats that we think. Same thing with the receiver. Once again, we'll go 49ers. Brandon Ayuk got a whole lot of money from the 49ers. It's not just because of his numbers. It's because of the things that he does that don't mean anything to fantasy. It's probably the best blocking receiver down the field in the game. So for all you fantasy people, and trust me, I'm one of you. I'm with you. I got 5 teams. I'm with you. But pump your brakes, thinking that these teams and these players have a worry or a care about what we do in fantasy. Got to think smarter. You got to be smarter. If you drafted Christian McCaffrey, you should have drafted Jordan Mason. That's what handcuff is, right? If you're paying any attention. So stuff like that is just hilarious. I just had to have that little small thing. There was a little fuckery there. Of course, the 49ers could have released that info. Of course, people could have known that and changed it. But they don't care about us. Not about fantasy football. Not about that. They care about fans, sure. But not about fantasy football, Jack. Nah. You got to make sure that the other teams don't know what you're doing because you're trying to beat them. Go get the ring. All right, well, that was into my little rant. I just found that funny when it comes to fantasy, people that bitch and moan about stuff like that, right? All right, look, that being said, man, happy Sunday. Let's go watch some football. Let's get it in. Right now, I got 3 different pots of chili going. It's chili cook-off time. That's got to do that. Next week, we'll do soups. And we'll stock up the freezer, and then it's just drinking and football for the rest of the fall. All right, y'all? Hey, look, have a good day. Y'all be good at it. Till next time, I'll holler.